Good morning, everyone. Jim Clark here at the Synchronicity Sanctuary in Central Virginia to share another contemplative focus with you. A contemplation to help you look at yourself and assess how you're doing and what you're doing to be the way you are. So today's contemplation is going to be reflections. Mirror, mirror, who am I? And who am I choosing to be? Everyone in my world is a reflection of myself. They are the mirrors of how I show up, and I show up according to the choices I make. Am I loving and accepting, or am I focused on negativity and fear based concerns? The people in my world show me what choices I'm making, consciously or unconsciously. The golden rule epitomizes the mechanics of consciousness as holistic lifestyle, and to daily actualize it is to demonstrate holistic wakefulness. In other words, if I consciously choose to show up as a loving and inclusive human being, and I welcome those who show up in my world, then that should be reflected back to me. On the other hand, if I run into many people in my life that's showing me the opposite, where they are demonstrating that I don't love myself, then that's who I'm choosing to be. Okay, and this is one of the most powerful contemplations that I worked with back in the day when we first started using these contemplations here, because it was undeniable. You could tell. And it doesn't mean that somebody won't show up and they might not be in a good mood, or somebody might not show up where they're going to be positive in the way that you would like to think of yourself. But that's part of the process, is to see if you're choosing to be positive in the face of running into somebody who's a little bit relatively negative to you. Huh? So it's not. It doesn't mean it's not working. Unless it's a constant. If you see people in your world every day that demonstrate life choices that are negative, that are self-destructive, that are not, so we say, expansive, they're not elevating their experience of life, and you are telling yourself that's what you want, then you're obviously not choosing to show up in a way that's commensurate with what you really want to do. And this is how we assess ourselves. This is how we can look at our life and the people in it and what we're doing in terms of, am I really living the life that I want to live? Am I living a life that supports my choices? And when you do this periodically or even every day, it's very helpful. It's a guide that you exercise within yourself. And as you practice such contemplations as this one, you can see very clearly um, how you're doing in that. Huh? And this is something you also have to realize that happens over time. I mean, when I first started meditating here, and I was using life affirmative affirmations every day. I was meditating every day. It didn't mean that overnight I was going to start actualizing people in my world that were reflecting what I was saying to myself in the mantras and in the affirmative invocations, because that takes time to shift and change. We spend a lifetime accumulating beliefs and accumulating different identifications of who we are and what life is, and those we acquire at a very young age when everything just goes right in. It's like it goes into a part of our awareness, a part of our thinking minds that normally can only access in meditation. So it's deep, it's unconscious, and it doesn't move out easily sometimes. This is the process, the fivefold process that we understand as meditators, that that is invoked every time we do meditate and we experience life in a more expansive and elevated way. We experience ourselves as a more sourceful being until we finally reach a point where we have established some form of presence, our own presence, which is an energetic dynamic that overrides anything that you can think, anything that you can feel normally, and it's you. It's the real you. It's the true you. It's the spiritual you that has always been there because you've always been exactly who you are. And the truth of who you are is the truth. And if that's the truth, everything you thought that was otherwise, of course, was illusion. And that process, the fivefold process of letting go of the data and the beliefs that we still have in our own meridians, wherever they're being stored, that are incommensurate with that experience, have to be cleared, and they do clear. So who am I choosing to be? And the mirror thing is just a way to see how much you're moving into that more fully in your life. So when I first started meditating, as I mentioned a minute ago, there was a lot of people where I live now, and there was a big variety of people in terms of what they were choosing to be and how things showed up for them as well as for me. And it was a very dynamic environment, and a perfect environment to witness my own, where I was, to witness how I was showing up for other people, how I was showing up for myself, and what I was drawing into it, and what I was finding to be either more positive or more negative. So it was like a thermometer, in a sense, a gauge of how I was doing. But this is in terms of years, not just like overnight. So for some people it might work that way, but for me it was a long process. And but it's happened, and today what I experience here and the people that show up here, even people who are brand new and never been here before, tend to be much more positive, because what I reflect to them is the kind of support and inclusion and love that would bring that out of them. And so they get that, and they experience it at some level, whatever level is appropriate for them, and in turn it encourages that in them. It encourages them to make that choice as well. And so it's an environment that one can grow in, because it's pushing you in that direction just by being here. And for those who finally reached a point in their evolution, their spiritual evolution, where they'd had enough and their process got too intense, so they couldn't withstand that process here, where the energetic is very powerful and will not be denied, are no longer here. And it's not a bad thing. It's part of what I've done for many, many lifetimes to be where I am today. And that's just the way it works. Human evolution is a slow, painstaking process. When you look at it from the perception of time as we know it when we're living human beings here, and which is not accurate really, because it's how we perceive time and how we experience ourselves, how we experience every moment that we are here. So it's a growing process through a holistic lifestyle and meditation that requires wakefulness. And that wakefulness, part of that wakefulness, a big part of that wakefulness, is using contemplations like this, where you consciously tell yourself that the people in your life are mirrors of yourself. And if they're not loving, if they're not accepting, if they're not showing you if not reflecting back the kind of person that you think you are or that you want to be, then you know that there's something you're missing. There's something that you're not quite catching, or you're just not quite there yet. That's all. So it's like it keeps you awake. It keeps you conscious of what's happening in your life as a reflection, and it's not to be reactive to it. It's just to keep going and maintain a positive, wakeful perspective on yourself and on those in your world, and to love yourself as much as you possibly can, because what more can you do? And this is always true of people, no matter where they are in their life, in their evolution from illusion to truth. But it's a journey that we have all taken, and if you witness people who are having what looks like a terrible life, and they're suffering a lot, and they're immersed in conflict and so forth and so on, lack, conflict and so forth. Well, this is part of the process that we have also been through. And whatever we had to learn through that process, we learned. But the truth is that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And because we are source consciousness, and the idea of being human is the illusion of who we think we are, the power that we have to create is overlooked and not understood very well. But we're very powerful beings. And when we develop enough balance and we grow our own power consciously, we begin to realize just how much we do create simply by what we think and what we focus on. And if you focus on anything long enough, that's what you become. So choosing what you focus on is choosing how you want to show up and who you want to be. If you think you're focusing a lot on something positive and loving and accepting, and yet nothing in your life is reflecting that back, you're either kind of new at the game, or you're not focusing as much as you think you are. It takes more than a couple minutes a day to make a meaningful change in your life that you experience constantly and consciously. So in my case, I know that for many, many years I heard contemplations like this, and I had tools to work with that were positive affirmations, and it seemed like nothing worked for a long time, it seemed like. But eventually it did. Eventually I started to see the changes because I just kept at it, which is why I chose to be in a place like this, because here I had total support in that process. And for some people, that's what they need. They just have to have that, because whatever makeup they're working with psychologically and emotionally, and what their history is and what kind of identifications they're working with, some of them are very difficult to move, and it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a concerted effort over a long period of time. But it doesn't matter now. Now that I look back on it, it was worth every moment, because the shift happened, and it's continuing to happen. It's continuing to grow. So I'm reaping the benefits of all that practice and that focus. Now, I could have focused on many different things in my life, and before coming here I did, but the quality of my life was certainly not anything close to what it is today. And so that's what I wanted to share with you, and it's something that I advise anyone to take that to heart as a guiding rule in their life. The golden rule, which epitomizes the mechanics of consciousness as holistic lifestyle. And to daily actualize it is a demonstration of holistic wakefulness. It's a demonstration that you are consciously choosing to be whole, complete, and loving, which is your true nature, and to see that reflected back to you and the people that show up in your world as a reflection of who you're choosing to be. So I wish you luck. I wish you success in your journey to consciously choose to be the most loving, inclusive human being that ever walked the planet, and that your world will begin to reflect that back to you. So with that, I bid you adieu until next Monday, when I'll be back to share another contemplative focus for you to become. Thank you so much for watching.